Let's be honest. When you think of Sweden, you think of sensible Volvos, flat-pack furniture that tests the limits of your sanity and possibly ABBA. You do not, under any circumstances, think of world-beating, fire-spitting, supersonic fighter jets. The very idea is preposterous. It's like hearing that your mild-mannered accountant spends his weekends wrestling bears. So, when word got out in the late 1970s that this small, neutral nation of just 8 million people was planning to build its own fourth-generation fighter jet, the rest of the world had a good chuckle. America, F-16SS America, F-18S Russia, MiGs, Russia, Sukhois, Europe, Eurofighter. What on earth did the Swedes think they were doing? To understand the Gripen, you first need to understand the map. Look at Sweden during the Cold War. It's stuck, isn't it? Wedged right between the grim, gray monolith of the Soviet Union and the nervous democracies of NATO. It was like living in a calm suburban street where the neighbors on either side were building nuclear bunkers. Sweden's official policy was neutrality, but in practice, neutrality is only respected as long as you have the muscle to enforce it. The Swedish Air Force, the Flygvapnet, had a problem. Their fleet of Draken, Viggen, the Soviets were churning out new MiGs, Sukhois, fast, powerful, increasingly sophisticated. The Swedes needed a new fighter that could take off from a motorway, be refueled and rearmed by a handful of conscripts in under 10 minutes, and then go toe-to-toe with the best the Warsaw Pact could throw at it. The project was named JAS-39, Jacked, Attack, Spanning. The contract went to a consortium led by Saab. It was a national crusade. The list of problems facing the Gripen team was, to put it mildly, biblical. First, there was the money, or rather, the lack of it. The Swedish defense budget was a mere puddle compared to the vast oceans of cash. Americans, the Soviets, every single krona had to be stretched until it screamed. They had to outthink their opponents, not outspend them. That financial straitjacket forced efficiency and creativity bigger programs couldn't match. They opted for a canard delta wing configuration that was deliberately, fundamentally unstable. In simple terms, the plane constantly wanted to fall out of the sky. This sounds like a terrible idea, and it would be, except for one thing: computers. The plane would be kept in the air by a sophisticated fly-by-wire system, making thousands of microscopic adjustments every second. This instability was the key to unlocking staggering agility, allowing the Gripen to turn on a sixpence. But it also meant that if the software failed, even for a millisecond, the pilot was suddenly flying a very expensive brick. At home, politicians questioned the enormous cost, wondering if the money wouldn't be better spent on hospitals and schools. Abroad, pressure mounted. Why reinvent the wheel, buy an off-the-shelf fighter? Finally, the sheer scale, integrating systems from dozens of suppliers, millions of lines of code, new manufacturing techniques. Faced with this impossible list of demands, the engineers at Saab did something wonderfully Swedish. They didn't panic, they didn't hold endless meetings, they rolled up their sleeves. Their guiding philosophy was simple: lagom, just the right amount. Why use 10 parts when 3 will do the job better? This wasn't about being cheap, it was about being smart. You can see that philosophy in their cars and furniture. The big American jets needed teams of highly trained specialists, hangars full of expensive equipment. The Swedes couldn't afford that. Their solution: design the Gripen to be maintained by conscripts with basic training. Using simple tools and modular panels, key components were accessible and replaceable. The entire engine could be removed and replaced in under an hour. Built-in test equipment was intuitive. A young technician could diagnose faults by following on-screen instructions. To tackle the fly-by-wire software, they built one of the world's most advanced simulators, a virtual laboratory. Engineers could test every single line of code, every flight control law, every emergency scenario. They flew thousands of virtual hours, simulating engine failures, sensor faults, and the worst emergencies without risking prototypes. This digital-first approach saved years of development time and untold sums of money. The design team was small, agile, and close-knit. A pilot's idea could be mocked up on a simulator by the afternoon. That rapid feedback loop let them innovate at a blistering pace. They weren't just building a machine, they were a family on a mission. For all the cleverness and ingenuity, the path to success was anything but smooth. It was paved with heart-stopping moments of near disaster. The first major setback came on February 2, 1989. On its 6th test flight, the first Gripen prototype, piloted by Lars Radestrom, was coming in to land at Linkoping. Suddenly the aircraft began to pitch up and down violently. A pilot-induced oscillation. It was like a wild horse trying to throw its rider. The plane slammed into the runway, skidded, and flipped over. The world's media, which had been waiting, pounced. Inside Sweden, political pressure intensified. Canceling the Gripen became a very real possibility. It took immense courage for engineers to face the cameras, admit the fault lay in the flight control software, and promise to fix it. Miraculously, the pilot walked away with only a broken elbow, testament to the jet's structural integrity. The Saab team went back to the simulators and spent more than a year rewriting and retesting the software. Finally, in 1990, the second prototype took to the skies. And it flew perfectly. But disaster, it seemed, was not finished with the Gripen. On August 8, 1993, during a packed airshow in Stockholm, including the Swedish royal family, disaster struck again. The first production Gripen suffered an engine stall during a tight, low-speed maneuver. The pilot ejected seconds before the aircraft hit Langholmen Island, erupting in a ball of fire. Images broadcast around the globe. After the second crash, the mood was funereal. Critics howled for cancellation. Investigators examined wreckage and flight data. The investigation revealed another software issue related to extreme aerodynamic forces. And crucially, it was fixable. With gritted teeth, the Saab team rewrote code, hardened the flight controls, and tested relentlessly. They tested and tested again. The program was delayed and budget strained, but it held together. When the Gripen re-emerged, it was mature, reliable, and its digital brain had been hardened by fire. When the first Gripen squadron entered service in 1996, it was quiet national vindication. It began appearing at international air shows, not as a cursed prototype, but a fully operational fighter. Pilots and audiences were stunned by high G-turns, tight loops, and stunning slow-speed control. What they saw was a thoroughbred, not a cheap alternative. The ultimate test for any fighter isn't an air show, it's performance in realistic combat exercises. The Gripen was invited to major international drills like Red Flag, and it punched above its weight. In simulated dogfights, its agility and avionics produced kill ratios that embarrassed larger fighters. F-15, Eurofighter Typhoon, F-22 Raptor. Pilots from NATO forces came back from mock battles shaking their heads. They couldn't get a lock. Its small size, low radar cross-section and electronic warfare suite made it a ghost, while its data link told the pilot exactly where everyone was. The Gripen wasn't winning by brute force, it was winning by being smarter. This battlefield success translated into export sales: Czech Republic, Hungary, South Africa, Thailand. Later, Brazil signed a massive deal to co-produce the advanced Gripen E and F, a huge vote of confidence. Pilots loved its carefree handling and state-of-the-art cockpit. Praise from seasoned professionals was the best advertisement. Its maintenance profile and reliability were game changers. A high-performance plane with the upkeep of a family hatchback. They weren't just competing, they were winning. The Gripen is not just metal, wires, and carbon fiber. For Sweden, it represents something far deeper, a reflection of national character. Innovative, self-reliant, pragmatic, and quietly determined. The program forced Swedish industry to become world leaders in software, composites, aerodynamics, and systems integration. That expertise spilled into telecommunications, automotive engineering, and IT, boosting the civilian economy. The program created thousands of high-skilled jobs and acted as a national technology incubator. After early humiliation, the Gripen's success became a story of national redemption and pride. With a credible modern air force, Sweden could make defense policy in Stockholm, not dictated by Washington or Moscow. The Gripen is a steel griffin protecting a nation's right to choose its own destiny. It's their jet, built by their engineers defending their homes. Think of the pride. So what is the Gripen's final place in the Grand Museum of Aviation history? It will be remembered as the jet that proved everyone wrong. It showed a new paradigm, valuing intelligence over brute force, efficiency over excess, sensor fusion, pilot-machine interfaces, and network-centric warfare, features that are now standard on next-generation jets. Those ideas are visible in aircraft like the F-35, proving the Gripen was ahead of its time. Balanced, affordable, multi-role, low operating costs, cutting-edge avionics, the little jet that couldn't, did, and it's still going strong. In the end, the Gripen is an inspirational tale, a small group of determined people with a clever idea achieving the impossible.